What's up, everybody? Nest Fitness up in here. All right, today we're going to talk about some gyno. We're going to talk about estrogen. Maybe talk about some prolactin, some things we can do. How to identify it, how to prevent it, and how you can treat it. So, first of all, let's talk about estrogen. Anytime you're taking a test or anything like it, it's going to do what's called aromatase. It's going to aromatize. And what that is basically is that, you know, your body has recognized that you've got some extra testosterone in your system. So what it wants to do is it's going to try to eliminate that by converting it over to estrogen. This is called aromatizing. This is why you want to use an AI, which is an aromatase inhibitor, because you want to counteract that natural process that your body is going to do. There's a range. When you pull your blood work, you'll see there's a range, and it goes from something like, I don't know, like 15 to 46, somewhere in there. But if you're in the range of, say, 20 to 40, if you're sitting in there, that's probably the best place to be. That's where most people feel comfortable at. They don't really have any symptoms or signs, and everything feels good. So you want to learn how to control your estrogen and get it into that little block of 20 to 40. So let's talk about some aromatase inhibitors we got. We got aromasin, we got Arimidex, and we have Litro. Litro is very, very, very strong. All these drugs are really used in the medical field to treat breast cancer and stuff like that in women. Litro will crash the fuck out of your estrogen. If you don't know how to use it, if you don't have experience with it, Litro will crush the fuck out of you. So you really don't want to use Litro as an AI. The only time you do is if you know you got Gyno, or if you're really, really experienced with it and you can't use aromasin or Arimidex. So what's the difference between these, and why does it make a fuck, and how do we dose them? So let's talk about aromasin first. Aromasin is a suicide inhibitor. That means it's actually going to kill the fucking estrogen. Aromasin is also good for your lipid panel. It improves a lot of your health markers. So aromasin is usually dosed 12.5 milligrams every other day. This is a starting point. This does not mean that it's going to work 100% for you at that dose. How do you determine that? Well, first it depends on what your cycles are. You know, how much test you're going to run, how many compounds, what milligrams, and all that shit. And it's also going to determine how sensitive you are to estrogen. Now, I know some people that can take 100 milligrams of test and they'll start getting gyno symptoms right off the bat. They're extra sensitive. Somebody like me, I can take up to a gram and not even need an AI because I'm not that sensitive. So you got to find out how sensitive you are. The only way you're going to find this is by first getting a baseline blood work test done. When you're completely off cycle, you ain't got shit in your system, go get your blood work done, see where you normally sit. Then start taking your cycle, and then 6 weeks in, draw your bloods again. With you taking 12.5 milligrams every other day, and see where your number is. If it's a little higher or a little lower, then adjust your dose as needed. You may have to go up to 25 milligrams every other day. You may have to reduce it down to like 6 milligrams. You know, it's different for everybody. This is just a starting point. Arimidex. Arimidex is not a suicide inhibitor. So what it usually does is it just treats the symptoms. It kind of helps the estrogen not to bind. You know, and a lot of people use Arimidex because aromasin for some reason seems to be harder to find for most people. Arimidex can have a bad effect on your cholesterol. So Arimidex, you know, it's not going to kill the estrogen, and it's bad for your cholesterol. It'll make your bad cholesterol numbers go up, your good cholesterol numbers go down. So Arimidex to me is not the best choice, but it's a choice. If that's all you can get a hold to, then good, get a hold to it, that's fine. It's usually dosed at 0.5 milligrams every other day. Now, if your estrogen goes up, here's your warning signs. Once you start getting above your range, you're going to start getting some sensitivity in your nipples. They're going to itch. There could be some puffiness there. You're going to have a loss of libido, erectile dysfunction. You can be overly emotional. It's a lot of things that can happen. if you're starting to feel some of them sensations, that means that your estrogen's getting out of control, and now is the time to control it before it gets too high. Because if it gets too high and it activates that gyno, then you're in some big shit. So once you start feeling them sensations, go ahead and start making adjustments to your dosage so you can go on and get that shit knocked out. Don't try to fuck around with it and wait, because if you do, you're gonna get gyno. So let's talk about prolactin. Prolactin is another thing that can cause gyno. Prolactin is probably worse when it comes to gyno when you get it, because not only are you going to get bitch tits, but it actually activates the mammary gland, and that means you're actually going to grow female breast tissue. That means you're actually going to lactate. Lactate means you're going to be spewing milk. Now I know some people like to damn squeeze their nipples, and if you squeeze them hard enough, even if you ain't on cycle, if you squeeze them hard enough, eventually some shit's going to come out. Do not squeeze your fucking nipple. If you lactate, you ain't going to have to squeeze. Your shirt will be wet right there. When it gets ready to lactate, it's going to lactate. Once that happens, you're in some deep shit, so you need to hurry up and get on your AI. Now, what does gyno actually feel like? What does it look like? A lot of people mistake this. A lot of people think that when they're having sensitive nipples, or if they're having itching or puffiness, that they got gyno. A lot of times all this is just elevated estrogen. You're holding water and shit like that, or just plain out chest fat. If you actually got gyno, you're going to feel it. Now if you go to Google and you Google images of the nipple and breast tissue, you'll see that, you know, if the nipple's right here, a layer around that, it looks almost like a flower. It kind of buds out, and on the end is little peas, and that goes all the way around your nipple. All right, when one of them peas swell up and get hard, and you rubbing, you're gonna feel it. All right, that means you now got gyno. One of them things that done damn puffed up on you. It's hard. You can feel it. So when you rub your nipple, you're gonna be able to feel it. Some people say it feels like a pea. Some people say it feels kind of like rice that's caught up under there, because there's, like I said, it's budded out all the way around. So it could be several of them active, maybe only one. And here's the best way I use to practice to check that. And this is the way you can keep on top of it. You're going to take a shower every day. So every day when you're in the shower, just soap up your chest and just, you know, just moderately massage. Don't do it too gently, do it moderately so you can actually feel in there, but do not press down so fucking hard that this isn't a fucking deep tissue massage. All right, if you press hard enough, you're going to feel them little granules that are around there. If you press hard enough, you're going to feel them, and then you're going to freak out, be like, oh shit, I got gyno, when actually you don't. You're just pressing too fucking hard. A nice moderate press, and circle around your nipple and lift your nipple up and down and around, and just kind of fill up in there. If it's activated, you're going to feel it. You're going to know it. So what happens now that you got gyno? What can you do? Well, this is when you're going to have to do a litro protocol. Litro, you know, basically a protocol of litro is going to be a couple weeks, starting out at like 0.5, and it'll ramp up to 2.5 milligrams and then come back down. And what's that going to do? It's going to kill every fucking estrogen in your body. Chances are when you run a litro protocol, more than likely you're going to crash your estrogen. What happens when you crash your estrogen? Well, good news is you don't die. But you remember all the symptoms I said for the high estrogen? Oddly enough, it's the same exact symptoms for crashed estrogen. I mean, you're going to be, you know, lethargic, out of energy, tired, overly emotional. Your joints are going to be very dry. You're going to be bitchy. You know, no libido, erectile dysfunction, brain fog. I mean, it's shitty whether you got high or low estrogen. They pretty much mimic the same symptoms, oddly enough. But that's what's going to happen. So just be prepared for that. Now, if you crash your estrogen, you can count on at least 2 weeks before it starts moving up pretty good, and maybe up to a month before it actually you know, flatlines back out to your normal level. So it's going to be a little while for being shitty. So you really don't want to crush your estrogen. But in the case that when you got gyno, I would rather crush my estrogen with some litro and get that problem knocked out the best I can and shrink it the best I can, because you know, you can't get rid of it. Regardless of when anybody says you cannot get rid of gyno unless you have surgery. The best you can hope for is to shrink it so much that the only person who will know it's there is you. Nobody else will see it. So that's your best hope right there, your best bet. And then from that time on, every time you cycle, you're going to have to be fucking Johnny on the spot with your fucking AIs and shit, because now it's going to want to swell and it's going to want to activate the other little nodules. It's going to want to get worse every single time. So the best thing you can do is prevent it by running you an AI. Now some people are going to say, well, can I just take fucking Novadex the whole cycle? And you know, Novadex and Clomid are SERMs. You know, they are not an AI. They are not going to control your estrogen in that way. What they are for is to block receptors and shit from binding estrogen. It's not the same thing, and it's not something you want to do. You especially don't want to run Novadex with nandrolones, which is a common misconception out there. They think you can run nandrolone, you run your DECA and run like 20 to 40 milligrams of Novadex. Well, Novadex is actually a prolactin antagonizer. So what you're going to do is you're just going to be pissing off your prolactin by running it. So do not do that. That's bro science. Do not do it. So we talked about that. Stay on top of your AIs. Always run your AI. Unless you know for a fact, if you've been doing this for a long time and you know how sensitive you are, you done pulled your blood work a lot of times, and you know how to run it, and you say, hey, I'm going to run 500 milligrams of test, I know I'm good, I don't need an AI. If you're that good, you don't have to worry about that. But for everybody else, until you get a couple cycles under your belt with blood works and a baseline, so you know where you're at with nothing, you know where you're at with 500 milligrams, if you go up to 750, you know you're going to have to adjust that dose, all right? More than likely. Not all the time, but more than likely. You got to stay on it. This is something I can't teach you. You know, it comes from experience. You'll have to teach yourself, but always stay on top. As long as you stay on top of your estrogen and your prolactin, then you're not ever going to have a need to worry about gyno. And you don't want to get it. The best thing you can do is prevent it. And a quick thing about prolactin is that your estrogen has to spike to a certain point to even activate the prolactin. Without that spike, the prolactin cannot be activated. Therefore, you're not going to have to worry about it. So if you control your aromatase and that process right off the bat, if you can control it, you're not going to have to worry about your prolactin, because that shit ain't going to hardly move so long as you're controlling that estrogen. You need to control it off, you know, right off the bat. So my recommendation is always going to be with Aromacin over Arimidex. But if you can't use Aromacin, and I know guys that cannot, it just don't have much effect on them, then use Arimidex. If you can't use Arimidex or Aromacin, you can go with Litro, but you better be damn fucking careful with it, because it will crash your shit. I think that about wraps it up for today. Glad y'all here. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for, don't forget that we got the Facebook page up, we got Instagram up, and 44 is currently working on building that forum. It should be ready to go in March. And everything's looking lovely, so just stay tuned and we'll get back with you with some more videos. Out.